In today's video, I'm taking you along for the marathon of all marathon kitchen cleans, and I'm finally going to be repainting after saying I was going to do it for about 2 years now. Now I'm on the countdown to having baby number 3, and I left no stone unturned in this kitchen. We're cleaning appliances, the walls, the floors, behind the oven. Anything I could think of was getting cleaned. And honestly, I hoped it would have taken a lot less time than it did, but I started this clean at around 24 weeks pregnant, and as of right now, I'm 35 weeks. So I'm going to timestamp what week I was at each stage of the clean and talk about how I was feeling at that particular time, what my goals were, and just take you along for the journey. And I really hope you enjoy watching and get some motivation. And yeah, let's get started. So on the surface, it doesn't look that bad, but when you look a little closer, there's so much that needs to be done. The cupboards have got loads of handprints and grease marks, the appliances need cleaning, behind the appliances. And if you've been following along with my pregnancy from the start and watched the other parts of this deep clean series, because I've gone through the whole house, but if you've been following along, you'll know why a lot of the dirt has built up. And obviously, I'll talk about that throughout this video as well. But yeah, buckle up and get your cleaning hat on, or get comfy and snuggle up, because it's going to be another long one today. I haven't done one of these marathon clean videos in such a long time, and I really wanted to post a good long one for you all before baby arrives. Anyway, I cleared the counters and started with the cupboards, starting from the top and working my way down, and I'm going in with some elbow grease because it's just my favourite for stuff like this. And because I have such a huge task ahead of me, and trust me, so much needs doing, I actually decided to split this clean into corners or segments. I was going to go around and do like all of the cupboards and then all of the appliances and then the windows and then the floors and so on, but I felt like getting a little bit of everything done at a time because it's just less boring that way. And I knew this was going to take me longer than one day. Little did I know just how long, but at the beginning I was very ambitious and estimated maybe about a week altogether. Wrong, very wrong. My body had other ideas. But yeah, on this particular day we did everything in this little corner, and like I said, I wanted to get into every nook and cranny. I was eyeing the extractor fan as I cleaned underneath the cupboard. And I'm not going to lie, things like that are the last thing on my mind when I'm cleaning the kitchen, the underneath of cupboards. And I think most of what I cleaned off there was residue from all of the candles. Maybe I should rethink how often I light those. Didn't do a perfect job because I couldn't really see what I was doing, but it looks a lot better now. Now to tackle this greasy bit behind the air fryer, and I know this is a sign that I need to move it away from the wall. Noted, believe me, because it's never been like this before. This corner's really tricky for me to clean because I'm already short as it is, but add my baby belly to the equation and it was bordering on ridiculous. And I'm only just over halfway, so I'm really glad I decided to do this corner first because it's only going to get bigger and more in the way. I'm really on the countdown now. I've got so much to do and sort. I've done nothing. I want to redecorate the living room and repaint at least 3 of the rooms in the house, this room being one of them. And I was going to make a separate decorating video, but do you know what? I'm just going to add the painting of this room to this deep clean series. Why not? I've got no time to mess around, and I feel like it'll just bring it all together really nicely. And I'm hoping you love the end result at the end of this video. Pregnancy's strange because one minute it feels like everything's so far away and then it's right round the corner. And then Christmas is right in the middle of it all for me and it's just like, ah! My mum and stepdad have already been round and repainted the living room, so I can't wait to show you that when it's all decorated as well. I've had a bit of a wobble at the colour because it just wasn't what I was expecting, but we're going to make it work. I wanted like a beigey peach colour and it is baby pink. My stepdad says it must be a sign we're having a girl. Me and Charlie are not convinced, but we're not finding out this time. We're going to have a lovely surprise and we'll be over the moon either way. Anyway, why has this clean taken me almost 11 weeks to finish? Well, for people who don't know, I'm one of those people who get really poorly when they're pregnant. Whatever the opposite of glowing is, that's me. I get something called hyperemesis gravidarum, and it leaves me pretty much stuck in bed for at least the first half of my pregnancy. And then when I am able to be up and about, it's not for long stretches and I have really limited energy. So I've been getting through it bit by bit, because Charlie, my partner, has been focusing on the normal everyday upkeep of the house, the tidying, general cleans and just parenting. And the deep cleanings have been put on the back burner, as you can see here. I did think I'd have it all done by now, but life is very unpredictable for me at the minute. One day I'm feeling almost human, the next I'm stuck in bed for days on end again, hence the lack of videos recently. Anyway, I decided to clean out the air fryer next just because I wanted to make a roast as a treat, and I always cook the potatoes in here. And Charlie had brought home a huge bit of lamb a few days ago. That is a rare treat in this house. And I knew that was going to take a while to cook, and something about having food cooking in the background while you clean really spurs you on. Does me anyway. The smell of garlic and onions cooking, it's just so comforting. And I was like, yes, I can put them in the oven, carry on my cleaning, light a candle, cinnamon, of course, and it'll just be a really lovely, productive day. I am going to show you some of the meals I cooked along the way, but I'm going to blur out any raw meat just because I know it upsets some people, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I plonked that in for about 2 hours 15 and got right back to what I was doing. You can tell these haven't been pulled out and cleaned in quite a while because of the layer of dust. Again, just not a priority at the minute. And some people have been really judging me for that, but I'd rather make sure the counters are consistently clean and the toilets are disinfected over cleaning underneath a cupboard or under the settee. You've got to pick what's most important in times like these. And that's not even just when you're poorly, that's just being an adult. When you're busy and you've only got a certain amount of time each day, being on top of all things all at once is just not feasible for most people. With work and young kids, even when I'm feeling 100%, I'm going to prioritise tidying up over deep cleaning 9 times out of 10, and then I just find time for the deep cleaning as and when I can. It gets messy so fast in this house, just keeping it at base level feels like a full-time job, and no, that is not a cue for parenting advice. Every child and family is different, and you don't know the individual hurdles each parent has. It might seem easy from the outside looking in to teach a child to just tidy up after themselves, but for some of us it's a long process, and that doesn't mean we're not trying our hardest behind the scenes. And a lot of the time we're also trying to install good habits in ourselves too, and be the best role models we can be. And yes, we've decluttered and need to declutter more, I know. Kettle was covered in limescale, so I had a little research into the best way to remove that. Asked Charlie to bring some soda crystals home from work and he brought home baking soda. I gave it a go, but it didn't work, obviously. So while that was working its magic, or not in this case, I gave the toaster a little clean. Tried to get rid of as many crumbs as I could. To be honest, this toaster is just old, and it doesn't matter how well it's cleaned, it looks old, and that's okay. It still works. I'm trying to get over this mindset that things have to look perfectly clean to be clean. When things start to get older and a bit more worn, they just get that look. But as long as they're functional and it isn't messing with your head too much, I say chill and try not to worry about it. Some of my kitchen cupboards look horrendous because they've all chipped and I just cannot justify spending money on them because we're saving for a mortgage. And it wouldn't be out of necessity, it'd be purely out of vanity because I don't like that they don't look perfect. Same with some of the skirting boards, they've gone a bit soggy and it's expanded the wood, especially the ones closer to the door, and they're never going to look brand new. But I'm going to try and sand them and put a protective coat on them soon. By the way, if you're new here and you've gotten this far into the video and you're thinking, my goodness, this woman does not stop talking. No, I don't. This is a talking channel, and the reason I talk so much is so that you can potter about your own house and clean and use me as a virtual body double. And it's just to help keep you company and on track, and so that you don't have to be sat watching the screen constantly to know what's going on. And of course that isn't for everybody, but you can always put me on mute or choose something more suited to you. I like keeping everybody updated and telling stories and just having a good old natter. And if you are new here, welcome, you've joined at a very exciting time in my life. I have 2 sons aged 4 and 9 and we're about to welcome our 3rd baby. And yeah, I've got big plans for 2026. We're hoping to move house soon, get some pet ducks, and just have a lovely, slow, cosy life. I'm also very messy, so if you also struggle with that, my videos at the very least will help you feel less alone. I also occasionally clean for others for free, and I'd love to do a lot more of that going forward as well. So yeah, I'm very happy you're here, and long-time followers, I appreciate you so much, of course. Anyway, that's all of the appliances from this corner clean. I ended up buying some proper kettle descaler and that worked a treat. I was well chuffed with it. And you might have noticed it was starting to get a bit dark at this point, and I was going back and forth, letting things sit and soak, tending to the kids, cooking dinner, and it was just a really chilled day. Usually with stuff like this, I'm very one-tracked and I have to finish something before I can move on to something else. Otherwise, I just don't feel calm and settled and I'm just really agitated. And I often put time frames over my head and then get upset when it takes longer than expected. But I was like, nope, you've got a little reminder list, you know what you're doing, this is just a small segment of the kitchen you need to get done, and there's no time limit. As long as it gets done, it doesn't matter how long it takes, and it doesn't mean the day's ruined if it takes quite a while. A week later, and it was time to tackle another section of the kitchen, and at this point I felt like I was getting through everything so slowly, mainly because each day's just been so unpredictable with my health. And I've just felt like a snail that's been stepped on the entire way through. Anyway, as I said earlier, I decided to do everything in segments to stop myself getting bored and to prevent getting overwhelmed. Because if you're anything like me, get even the slightest bit overwhelmed and I'm not even going to start. I'm just going to put it off until it becomes ridiculous. And then when I actually do get round to it, I realise it wasn't a big deal at all, and that all that worry and time wasting was for no reason. I realise you can take these turny things off, but I don't know how and I don't want to break the oven, so I'm just going to clean around them like this. And the top of the oven was so greasy because Charlie had made sausages for breakfast, and I knew I was going to be cleaning this whole area today anyway, so I was like, leave it with me. Now, this was my favourite task of the day, getting the grime out of all of the crevices. I've been meaning to get round to this for ages, but I kept forgetting to buy the sticks. And then we were doing a school project with Rudy, making a solar system, and we needed to attach the ring to Saturn somehow, so I finally remembered to get some. I'm just cleaning the outside of the oven today. I do not have time to clean inside because I'm going to be pulling it out and cleaning underneath it as well, so that's definitely a separate job all by itself. If at any point I sound out of breath in this voiceover, it's because I am. Baby's sideways now, but at this point in the video they were breech and they were pretty much standing up, head in my lungs and feet kicking downwards. So much fun. I don't think they've been in the head down position at any point so far. They've been breech, oblique, horizontal, and I'll talk more about that later on, but it's definitely been an experience. Anyway, pulled the oven out and it wasn't actually too bad. I was expecting it to be way worse than this, so I gave it a quick hoover. And then there was this splodge here where I'd spilled paneer masala down the side. I sprayed it with some of the Fairy non-soak spray. I'd never tried it before, but it's really good. But it wasn't cutting it here, so I tried to scrape it up with a toy spatula. It was the only thing I could find. I'd blocked the cutlery drawer with the oven, so I was running around the house trying to find things to scrape it off with. Eventually I found this little tub from the kids' potion making kit, so got to be resourceful. The turmeric had left a stain on the floor, but eventually these things fade, so I wasn't too worried. Then I gave it a mop with some bleach just to know I'd done a proper job. Especially because it's not a space I clean often. I know there are some people who are like, I clean behind my oven every week, but that is never going to be me. And then it was time to degrease these sides. This was actually such a satisfying clean. The only problem is trying to get good camera angles in such a tiny space, especially when I'm shaped like Violet Beauregard. I'm always filming with 2 different cameras and tripods as well because I do short form content for TikTok. So sometimes I have to decide which platform gets the best visuals. Anyway, I was having a real panic this week because I'd just given myself such a lofty goal. Once I finished all of the cleaning in here, I wanted to, like I said, repaint all of the walls and touch up the paintwork on the table and the chair legs as well, because honestly, everything looks so grubby. I got like a duck egg blue for in here and I was so excited to see it all finished. And if we've got time, please let me have time, I'm repainting our bedroom as well. I'm going to do that when I get round to the deep cleaning in there. And I'll probably do a little nesting series with that too, where I get all of the baby stuff sorted and ready. I want to do a little pack my hospital bag with me, wash baby's clothes, fill the storage rack on the back of the door. I actually can't get my head around the fact I'm having another little human. It honestly feels too good to be true. Anyway, gave the vents at the back a good dust, and you have to make sure you're being really careful when you pull out gas ovens because they're attached to the wall and you really don't want to pull that wire out. So please just bear that in mind. Realistically, it's meant to be chained to the wall. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I have so much I want to get done in such a short space of time. Problem is, I have all of these big plans but no energy to actually get round to it. And for every good and healthy day I have like 3 days where I'm stuck in bed. And you never know what kind of day it's going to be. It's just so uncertain. And I've really been struggling with that because as an unorganised person, I need structured plans and certainty from day to day. Otherwise, my life just spirals out of control. But it's completely out of my hands at the minute and I'm trying to learn to just go with the flow. As you can see, I got really stuck into this clean. It was so therapeutic. Charlie was entertaining the kids and I was just left to my own devices. I had my own cleaning motivation videos on in the background. I'm really loving watching Operation Nikki, or Nikki's Side of Clean Talk at the minute. She doesn't really do voiceovers much, but her videos just scratch an itch. And she's the kind of organised I wish I was, so I'm just living vicariously through her at the minute. I usually do like to put cleaning videos with voiceovers on in the background while I clean, because otherwise I'll get distracted and I'll end up just sitting down and watching it, and not actually doing what I set out to do. Particular favourites at the minute are people who kind of tell you off for being messy, because honestly I've got such low energy and I feel so depleted at the minute, I kind of need shame to fuel me. It gives me some kind of superhuman determination, probably because I have an unhealthy need to prove people wrong, and that I can do anything even when I feel like I'm going to pass out. Strange behaviour, I know, but needs must at the minute. But yeah, that's another reason I like to chat away through my videos. I don't like to tell people off, that is not my style, but I want you to be able to put me on in the background and feel motivated and productive, or you can snuggle up and watch, it's up to you. Anyway, next I summoned Charlie to get the grate from the extractor fan down because it was caked in grease. Got some hot water and washing up liquid on it and it worked a treat. And then for all the little separate grates, I sprayed some degreaser on a microfiber cloth and I just pulled it through each one. I won't bore you with that entire process, but you get the gist. Is this nesting behaviour already, or someone who just got really zoned in and invested on the little details? Maybe both. I remember by the end of my pregnancy with Ike, I was mopping twice a day, mainly just because I was obsessed with the smell of cleaning products, but that is so unlike me. I usually find mopping one of the most boring, time-consuming jobs there is, and it stresses me out so much waiting for the floor to dry. Anyway, I bought all of the bits from the hob up here so that I could get some degreaser on them. The bath was the only place I could think of that had fit the bigger things. Plus, I wanted to see the colour of the water as I was cleaning. I did leave everything to soak, and people always watch these sped up videos and assume we don't do that. But I promise it'd be a very boring watch if we kept those bits in. Let's just take it as given that some things don't make the final cut. Some people say as well, you haven't rinsed that with water. I have to move this camera around so much that I barely put the rinsing parts in, because I'd have to pause, move the camera, dry my hands and press play again, and it's very time consuming. But yeah, I do rinse everything with water, especially the suds from my dishes. Anyway, it was getting really late at this point and everyone was hungry, so I rinsed and dried everything as quick as I could. And I wanted to include this next part just to show you that this home, like most homes, is lived in. And as much as I'd love everything to stay pristine at all times, especially after putting so much effort into the clean, we actually have to use the kitchen, and things pretty much get undone as soon as they're done. But that's life, and I feel that part gets missed out a lot on social media. So here's my kitchen after making a roast straight after I just cleaned. And you know what? It was so worth the mess. Fast forward another 2 weeks and I'd summoned the courage to tackle this cluttered little microwave corner. The microwave is an area, like a lot of areas in this house, that seems to accumulate clutter. So I wanted to do something about that and hopefully make it less visually overwhelming. Honestly, the older I get, the more clutter just upsets me. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm ever going to grow out of letting it build up in the first place. Never mind. So after I removed all of the appliances and stuff from the sides, I started on the cupboards, again from high to low. But this time I'm using a mop to reach everything because this whole area is just so tricky. And my bump has grown even more, and I don't want to be standing on chairs to get to everything. Not that it makes much of a difference anyway, I can still barely reach even with the chair. But yeah, if you're confused as to why I'm wiping down the tiles with a mop, it's because I just can't reach anymore. Might not be doing the best job, but it's doing something, and that's all I can hope for at this point, to be honest. How have these handles gotten so grubby? Because my 4-year-old lives for food and won't leave these cupboards alone. Don't know what else to say. The handprints will be back within days, if that. He's always got something sticky on his grubby little paws. Chocolate, mud, paint, slime, you name it. And yes, I could follow him around the house with a cloth, but I don't want to. I'm tired. I did think I'd have this whole room deep cleaned and painted by now, but I just feel like I'm constantly playing catch up. The house is constantly messy, we tidy it up, I think, I can carry on with my deep cleaning tomorrow, and then bam, same mess again, and I'm thinking genuinely, how is this possible? And it's basically making a decision between letting the mess build up for longer than a day and getting more deep cleaning done. Leaving the mess in this house is a recipe for disaster. or trying to keep on top of the mess and then barely having a chance to carry on with the deep cleans. And then add on the fact that on multiple days of the week I can't get out of bed because of low iron or a bad day with the hyperemesis. I'm trying really hard not to let it get me down, but some days all I have the energy to do at the minute is lay on the settee watching Chicago Med. My littlest, Ike, he said the other day, "It's okay, mummy, you can put a blanket on and watch your doctor programme." And I just felt so guilty. All I keep seeing on social media at the minute are other glowy pregnant mums in their nesting era, and they're so organised and everything's ready, and my life just feels like chaos. Do you know what though? I've had 3 healthy days in a row the other day, and I thought, I'm finally feeling human again. This is what it feels like to feel human, because it's been so long I can't actually remember. And now today I'm back to not being able to keep my eyes open, and it's so depressing. Nothing's predictable, and my brain needs predictability to function. And I know I'm moaning loads at the minute, but I just think letting it all out here and having a vent, 1, makes me feel better, and 2, if there are any other pregnant people here fully not thriving in pregnancy, you're not alone. Got to bring some balance to the feed, haven't I? Anyway, just to give you a laugh, this is what I look like 99% of the time at the minute. I feel like I'm losing my marbles, my hair definitely adds to it too. But anyway, my plan for today was to clear that corner area, clean everything that lives there, the inside of the microwave, the lamp, even the plant. Because living next to the cooker, grease just builds up eventually and then makes everything a magnet for dust. And then I wanted to get all of the lower cupboards cleaned because I got all of the higher ones done the other week. And I said to myself, if that's all I can manage, then I'm chuffed with that. And then I've just got the area near the windowsill to sort another day. The floor needs a full deep clean. I need to get some kind of paint remover on it because it's got loads of splashes from when we painted the living room. And Ike painted in here months ago and I still haven't been able to get rid of all of that off the floor either. And yeah, once that's all done, it'll be time to start painting in here. I just think it's going to completely transform the room. I'm also going to sand and repaint the skirting boards and the table legs. Sorry if I keep repeating myself, by the way, pregnancy brain. As I'm doing this voiceover now, I thought it was the kids' first day back at school after the Christmas holidays. I packed all the lunch boxes last night, got them into bed early, and then my friend reminded me it was actually teacher training day. So I had to say, actually, it's not school tomorrow, after preparing the kids all day for it to be school tomorrow. So that's the kind of mindset we're working with right now. I'm hoping to put a shelf above the tumble dryer to free up some more storage space. I want to put some nice air purifying plants on there and maybe some twinkly lights. And yeah, am I going to get all of this done before baby arrives? I do not know at this point. I need a miracle. Let's start on the lamp. This is what I mean about dust sticking to things near the cooker. I know most people don't have lamps on their kitchen sides, but I think it makes it look so cosy. Anyway, I keep getting told, both when I complain about pregnancy and when I try and get on with things and power through, just rest, you're pregnant. Which is of course completely well-meaning and I appreciate the sentiment. But I do not want my house in disarray when the baby comes. I don't even want the house to be on my radar. I don't want to think about it. I want it to be clear, clean and calming so I can just enjoy my little postpartum bubble. And I need that for my mental health above anything. Charlie will be maintaining the house when the baby comes, but I want to make it as easy as possible to maintain. Not because he isn't capable, but because I'll have had a C-section and he'll have 2 other children and an entire house to run pretty much without me for a while. This will be my 3rd C-section and you never really know how recovery is going to go. So that means deep cleaning, decluttering, painting while we still have a chance. And yeah, I've already spent the majority of this pregnancy in bed through no choice of my own. And so when I even get 5 minutes of feeling okay, I'm up and I'm trying to tackle something. And I'm going to be doing that up until the day before I have the baby. Because it doesn't just stay magically clean and tidy once you've done it, does it? And I think some people forget that. And especially in neurodivergent households, the mess just happens so fast. And you have to really be on the ball to keep it tidy. And that's easier said than done when everybody, myself included, is completely in their own world, daydreaming, putting things down in random places absent-mindedly. I'm usually on the ball to remind everybody to pick up after themselves. This is what I just have to do. But I'm not in that mindset currently. And the anti-sickness I'm on are drowsy, which means even on healthy days I'm fighting my body to stay awake. And my GP isn't a fan of prescribing the non-drowsy, frankly more effective ones. So everything just feels like drudging through quicksand. Charlie's trying to pick up all of my slack when he's home from work, but there's only so much one person can do, isn't there? And as a mostly upbeat, positive person, I know I sound so depressing at the minute, but genuinely, if it weren't for my health limiting me, I'd be over the moon right now. Full of beans, getting so much done every day, and I am so excited to meet baby. I just want to feel better. This really has taught me that you cannot put a price on health. It should never be taken for granted. Even just being able to walk 5 minutes down the road or clean a room in your house, for some people it takes every bit of strength they have, and to get themselves up and do that every single day, they have all my admiration, because when I exert effort like I am here, I'm paying for it the next day. And obviously some people are going to be thinking, this is all you talk about at the minute, and yeah, it is, because it is completely consuming my life. When you don't feel well, that absolutely dominates and impacts every area of your life. And so even more so now, when I see people making comments on other people's cleaning videos about how there's just no excuse to be messy, I just think you honestly have no idea. And you should feel so lucky that you don't. I count myself lucky that for me, this is just temporary, fingers crossed. But for other people, they genuinely don't have a choice and there's no end in sight. And so when people say to me, why are you cleaning other people's houses when you struggle to keep on top of your own? That's why. I know what it feels like to struggle with executive dysfunction and that mental block, and now I have a small glimpse of what it feels like to be physically ill and exhausted. Why wouldn't I want to help people? This is a special interest and passion of mine. A clean house is such a gift. The peace a calming environment brings, you can't beat that. And so as soon as I feel better and I'm able, I'm going to be putting more steps in place to be able to help more people in the future. This whole experience has just made me even more determined. Anyway, this corner's almost done. Just restocking the freshly cleaned fruit bowl, and it all looks so much neater. Long may it last. After I've finished, Charlie's going to go through the fridge and all of the cupboards and do a huge declutter as well, because we refuse to let this room transform back into the stressful state it was a few years ago. If you've seen my marathon kitchen declutter video, you'll understand. Anyway, here I am a few days later making a lasagna, just because I want to keep showing you that we have to live in between these deep cleans and re-clean what we've already cleaned, and I want to assure you that this is what real life looks like. 30 weeks pregnant and I am on the 10-week countdown now. And does anyone else's windowsill just become a catch-all for the most random stuff in the house? I don't know what compels me to just store stuff on here constantly, but after a few weeks, without fail, I end up getting annoyed at the sight of it. I don't love clutter, clutter just loves me apparently. So let's give it a good clean and sort out, starting with all of this soil. We've got 2 baby apple trees growing on here, because Ike was eating an apple the other week, and when he pulled the seeds out, they were actually already sprouting green roots, and I'd never seen that before. The apples were from a new pack, and I didn't have the heart to throw the seeds away. So we're keeping them nice and toasty until we can plant them somewhere in the spring. There's a big woods near our house, so we'll probably go there. It would be nice if we could keep them in our garden, but we just don't have any room. And I know I should clean this windowsill more often, but honestly, it's not in my eye line, so I don't even see how bad it gets. That is the case for so many areas in this house. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind for me. Anyway, if you're keeping count, so far it's taken me 6 weeks just to get to this section of the kitchen. I do have an excuse in the fact that I'm massively pregnant and knackered now, but to be honest, this is the best way to tackle a big or overwhelming task, breaking it up into little bite-sized chunks, especially when you've still got so much else to do. Like for us, we've still got to keep on top of the day-to-day stuff, and we didn't want to let any of that slip either, because it would have just made life even harder. Might not have succeeded at that all the time, and we have had to re-clean a lot of what I deep cleaned. I think I even spilled paneer masala in that exact same spot near the oven at one point, but we're trying our best and that's all we can do. It's all just a big merry-go-round, isn't it? And I don't have the answer to any of it. You're either organised and on the ball, or you're not. And I'm just not. But my talents and gifts lie elsewhere, and I'm sure that's the same for you if you're like me. It's okay. It's always funny to me though when people are like, just do an hour of tidying or cleaning a day and the house will never be messy. We do, and it's still messy most of the time. To counteract how messy it gets in this house, we'd have to be picking up constantly, and that's why recommendations of hiring a cleaner once a week just wouldn't make sense either. Because they could come round in the morning and by the afternoon it'd look like they'd never been here. And what that means ultimately is we need to do more work refining our systems and routines. Obviously, that's all out of the window at the minute anyway, because we're pretty much in survival mode. But constant mess is a problem that needs tackling from the inside out. This is made a lot harder when you're neurodivergent or live with other neurodivergent folk though. And I did delve into that a little bit earlier, but forming habits, sticking to routines, seeing mess, getting started and staying on track, these are things that can be a lot harder to manage. And of course, this is part and parcel of what my channel's about. Getting there bit by bit over time and not punishing yourself for falling back into old habits and getting overwhelmed with it all from time to time. But yeah, in some households it really isn't as simple as just spend this amount of time on your house each day, because we probably spend more time than most tidying up. And if you're the same as me, trust me, I know how disheartening it is when you're trying so hard and people just can't see that. They just see mess and assume laziness, or they suggest things that just wouldn't work for your brain or family or situation. We know people are just trying to help, of course, but sometimes you just think, I'd love for you to live in my head for one day. Anyway, this sink gets cleaned every day after the pots, but it really needed a bit more attention. There was paint all over the tap from when we washed the paintbrushes. There was a bit of limescale around the base that I wanted to sort. The drain needed freshening up and disinfecting, and so did the little drain bit on the draining board. I have no idea how to clean that bit properly. Ours has gotten really pongy, and I can see there's a little screw bit there, but I refuse to touch that. I made that mistake in the past. I unscrewed the plug to the bath a few years ago thinking that I was a genius, and it broke the seal and flooded all the way through to the living room ceiling. I saw someone do it on TikTok and thought, oh, that's such a good idea. I just leave things alone now. It's not a good idea. Anyway, I decided the best way to clean it was to use a bit of bleach and then one of those electric cleaning brushes, and it seemed to do a decent job. At least it looks and smells cleaner, and the hope is that the bleach has cleaned the bits I couldn't reach. Sometimes, and I say sometimes, most of the time, I get into the headspace where if I can't do something perfectly, I don't want to do it at all. And this was one of those occasions. And I had to just push through and be like, look, even cleaning this surface bit is better than nothing. It's cleaner than it was. And honestly, what's going on further down the drain is none of my business. Anyway, that looks much better. The next day I decided to finally face the music and give this washing machine a deep clean. Now, it is in a shameful state and I make no excuses for this. I knew if I didn't do it when I got the courage, I would have just left it again for who knows how long. But we'd gotten this far and I didn't want to let go of the momentum. I have been putting this off for way too long. And surprisingly, it didn't smell. Neither did the washing, but that doesn't really mean anything, does it? And I especially didn't want to be washing a newborn baby's clothes in this. So starting with the drawer, we're just going to pop this out and let it soak in some mould remover for a bit. By the way, one of the main reasons this has been put off for so long is because I'm scared of not doing it properly or breaking the machine. But that's no excuse not to learn, so I've watched loads of tutorials and I feel like a bit of an expert now. So follow along these steps if you've been struggling on where to start with yours. I knew this drawer was bad, but I didn't realise it was this bad because I couldn't see underneath it. Ew, it's really not good, is it? In goes some more mould spray. And then I'm using this classic trick to catch the water from the filter. It didn't quite go to plan though because I have no patience and I couldn't wait for it all to drain out slowly. So it ended up going all over the floor anyway, just making extra work for myself as usual. Apparently that little blue thing pulls out as well and you can empty that, but I was too scared. I just can't afford to be out here breaking appliances at the minute. And would you believe me when I say this is actually a relatively new washing machine? They're just magnets for mould because of all of the damp. You should really leave things to air out between the washes and you need to keep on top of cleaning regularly. Lesson learned. I posted a shorter clip of this washing machine clean on TikTok and I said just that. You need to let the machine dry a bit between washes. And then I was told about 50 times you need to leave the drawer open and let it air out. Yes, that's what I also just said in the video you just watched. I seem to be losing my tolerance for little things like that as I get further along in the pregnancy. And I know it really doesn't matter in the scheme of things, but it just irks me. Another thing that annoys me is the fact that you have to clean things in the home that's whole entire purpose is to clean something else. There are so many things we need to keep on top of consistently. Why do we also need to clean the things that clean? I feel angered by this. Anyway, first world problems. We've got washing machines, tumble dryers, running water. It's all about perspective, isn't it? Although I still think it's healthy to have a good grumble about things too, though. Anyway, you're probably wondering, Remy, have you never cleaned a washing machine before? And the answer is, of course I have. But honestly, I don't think I've ever done a good job of it. And I really wanted to make sure it was pristine this time. All the mould gone, clean and smelling fresh, and not just the parts that are visible, all throughout the machine. And that's the bit that was daunting to me, the bits that I couldn't see. So if you think I've missed something or I could do something better, I'm always willing to learn. I might still be offended by your advice, but that's a me problem and my personality flaw. I just don't like being told what to do. I hope it goes without saying that I'm not using this sponge to clean this and then going on to clean the dishes with it later. And I wasn't a fan of this toothbrushy cleaning thing when I first got it, but I found it's been a lifesaver for the little things like this. I almost got rid of it as well because it was taking up space in my cleaning cupboard and annoying me, but it's definitely earned its place now. It's great for all of the little finicky or hard to reach bits. I'm sure an old toothbrush would do just as good of a job though. Most of the time you don't need any special gadgets to get a job done. And I said in my most recent short, in 2026 I'm going to do my best to use what we have lying around, rather than going out and buying new things when we don't necessarily need them. The mould was just melting off here after the remover had done its job, and this was just so satisfying. And as usual, something I thought would be really difficult was actually really easy. So take this as a sign to stop procrastinating and making things out to be bigger in your head. If you've been putting off the paperwork, making an appointment or a phone call, writing that essay, cleaning an appliance, you can do this. And you're going to feel so relieved and proud of yourself when you do. Yes, I did make sure the top of this drawer was scrubbed and clear too. On to cleaning the actual front of the machine because this was grubby as well. And I'm not going to lie, I've been walking past it day after day when I could have easily given it a wipe every time I wiped the surfaces. And it's just because I thought it would be more rewarding for me this way. And you guys, because we get to see a visible difference at the end. Everything else I cleaned here is kind of hidden away, isn't it? And I just love to see the soapy suds. I don't know why, but it feels more clean to me if there's suds. Anyway, this was the last thing I decided to clean before starting the decorating. I was going to clean the floor first, but then I thought, what if you get paint everywhere? You might as well just do that last. Anyway, look how much cleaner this all looks. It looks good as new. I'm so happy with it. I did wonder whether the mould might have stained some parts, but no, looks great. And yeah, back to the topic of decorating, most of my family members had told me that they weren't sure about my colour choice, but anything's better than the walls as they were. They just looked so grubby, and it had gotten to the point where no amount of cleaning was going to change that. You'll see for yourself really soon. And yeah, all I've got left to do after this room is repaint our bedroom and set up all of the baby stuff. Charlie thinks I'm being ridiculous wanting to repaint the bedroom with only so many weeks left to go, but the need to repaint is overruling any common sense I've got. That's definitely nesting, isn't it? The thought of it not being painted is unacceptable to me. You'll see why though, to be fair. There's bits of blue tack stuck to the wall, dents, it's mucky. I just want a fresh canvas for baby. Anyway, I got all of the mould and dirt out of the sill. This washing machine has to deal with a lot of dirt because my youngest is always covered in mud at preschool. He goes to a forest school and they're outside 99% of the time. And that's the way it should be. Soon enough he'll be stuck in a classroom, and so I want him to enjoy nature as much as possible. But the washing machine definitely bears the brunt. And you can see all of the residue on the glass as well, and that's been bugging me for ages. So I gave that a good wash. The floor has desperately needed a clean for so long, and not just a regular clean or even a bleach clean, because obviously we've been doing that regularly and it still looks awful. It needs scrubbing with a paint remover and a scrubbing brush, because there's paint stains and bits stuck in the crevices, and yeah, the regular mops are just not cutting it at this point. It always looks dirty no matter what I do. Honestly, we need a new floor altogether, but it's just not worth it at this point. But I'm going to see what I can do with it and hopefully make it look a lot better than it does. At this time of year, I'd usually be putting so much pressure on myself to get the whole house deep cleaned and pristine, even before the start of December, so I can decorate in a clean house and film the whole decorating process and everything we got up to over Christmas. But this pregnancy's taught me to slow way down and only do what I can. Usually I decorate the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, and I just go all out for Christmas. And this year, all I did was put the Christmas tree up. And you know what? The world carried on spinning and we still felt festive. Anyway, I'd been meaning to get this sticker residue off for ages, so it was good to finally get round to that. Looks so much better. And then the last thing I needed to do was clean the drum. And I decided to use bleach for this because I had a feeling there'd be a lot of bacteria build up in here. So I gave the drum a good scrub first. I know there's specific washing machine cleaning solutions, but I couldn't be bothered with that. And then after I did that, I just let the washing machine run on a boil wash, rinsed it a couple of times after that, and we were good to go. Lovely and fresh now. 2 weeks later and it was time to make a start on this monstrosity. As you can see, the skirting boards are soggy, the walls are atrocious, and those of you who've been following along for a while will know I've been saying I'm going to repaint this kitchen for about 2 years now. Apparently pregnancy was the push I needed. I really hope I get to keep at least a fraction of this nesting instinct after baby's born. I can dream. Anyway, first I prepped the walls by cleaning them with some sugar soap. Now, when I posted the shorter version of this, I actually cut this bit out because I'm trying to make my short form videos shorter, and I got accused of skipping this step and painting straight onto a dirty wall. Honestly, I can't win. But for you guys, you get the long versions and you get to see a bit more of what goes on behind the scenes. And this is why I love YouTube, because you really build a community over here of people who know and remember things about you. Whereas on the shorter form platforms, you get quite an equal mix of followers and then complete strangers. And that includes people who've just landed on your content who wouldn't necessarily be interested in watching cleaning. And honestly, it can be brutal. You really have to have thick skin. Anyway, if you're wondering why half of the floor's missing here, it's because our Cocker Spaniel did it when she was a puppy. She also pulled out the draft excluder thing from underneath the door, and now this whole area is perpetually damp, hence the condition of the skirting boards. There was even a slug wedged into the gap, and it deeply upset me. I had to get Charlie to come and get it out, as gently as possible of course. We're kind to all living things here. But yeah, there are going to be a lot of points throughout this decorating process where you're going to be asking yourself, what on earth is she doing? Or I would have done it this way and this is going to turn out terrible. I'm going to ask you to trust the process, especially with these skirting boards. There's not a lot I can do. They need to be fully pulled up and replaced, really. The draft excluder on the door needs replacing, and that is on the agenda. But for now, I'm just going to try and make them look less horrible. Next, I gave the door a good clean and wipe down. This door is forever covered in mud. So's the floor in this room, because we prefer to use this door over the front door. I think it's better to get this floor muddy rather than the one in the living room, because it's easier when you need to leave it to dry. And you don't have to walk through the main living space or near the rug. And this floor's a lighter colour than the one in the living room, so you can see when it's dirty more easily. It just puts my mind at ease that it's properly clean. Then I cleaned the windows, which was a futile task really, because it was raining and it just makes it look streaky. Next, I tried out the carpet vac on the doormat, and me and Charlie were debating whether you could actually use it on something like this, and I was thinking, why wouldn't you be able to? It's much quicker than trying to hand wash it, and these things cannot go in the washing machine, trust me, tried that before and it smelt like burnt rubber. Ever since then, I've tried to hand wash it in the summertime in the garden. I've used a scrubbing brush and it's just so time consuming and it leaves it really damp. This way I can clean it fast and then use the dry setting and it's actually going to smell nice. Obligatory water pour, look at that. And then it was time to give everything a good wipe down, ready to start the painting. By the way, I cannot wait to show you the before and afters at the end of this video. I really didn't think I'd managed to get this all done before baby arrived, and I'm so pleased with myself. This whole pregnancy has been so difficult for me, and it's taken a lot of willpower to get myself up in the last bit of this pregnancy. And I've just been pottering around each day, getting little bits that I could reach done before Charlie and my stepdad came round to finish the rest. Well, my stepdad came over, Charlie lives here, obviously, but he's been at work a lot and I'm not waiting for anybody. If you're wondering why I'm using such a tiny roller, it's because the big ones hurt my wrist. And one of my wrists especially has been in agony this pregnancy. I think I've got that carpal tunnel syndrome. I can barely pick things up at the minute. Luckily, it's my left hand. At this point, I feel like the baby's going to judge me if the whole house isn't painted. And you're going to judge me for painting round the light switches, to which I'm going to respond, leave me alone, it looks better than it did. Don't I always hammer at home on this channel that better is better than nothing? And it's worth doing something even if it's done badly. That's how we learn and grow and get rid of that perfectionist mindset, because 9 times out of 10, it is a hindrance. That's coming from someone who for most of her life would not start a task until the conditions were perfect and I knew everything was going to turn out perfect, which led to so many things being put off or not started at all, getting in predicaments for being late, having things stuck in my brain all the time, not being able to enjoy the present moment. And the anxiety of that I'm still trying to work on today. Now, I just make myself start and we learn along the way. That's one of the reasons I was able to start this channel. We start first, we learn as we go, we make mistakes and learn again, and we stop worrying about looking silly or being judged. Life is so much more fun that way. Anyway, I'm on a real countdown now because although I was 32 weeks pregnant here, as I'm doing this voiceover, I'm actually 35 weeks pregnant, and baby's lying transverse in my tummy, which means they're literally lying horizontally. And I have a scan next week, and if they haven't moved, I might have to be admitted to hospital until they arrive, which is terrifying to me because I haven't got anything ready, haven't packed the hospital bag, haven't put up the crib, and I haven't shaved in about 2 months. I look like a yeti from head to toe. Not that the medical staff are going to care, but... By the way, when I say they, it doesn't mean I'm having twins. It means we don't know whether we're having a boy or a girl yet. And so many people have been asking me if we're having twins. No, I just prefer to say they rather than it. Anyway, painting round another light switch. My stepdad did take these off when he came round to paint the living room, and honestly, it does look a lot more professional in there. But as I said, I don't have time to wait, and unless you're really inspecting everything with a magnifying glass, you can't really tell. A few days later, I came to sand and repaint the skirting boards, and guess what? They still hadn't dried. Nor were they going to because it's just too damp. So I just painted over it anyway and hoped for the best. I know that's far from ideal, and judge me all you want, but again, it looks better than it did. This is a problem we will get round to sorting as soon as possible, but with so little time left before baby, I just wanted it to look fresher. I couldn't think of anything worse than having a new baby and walking into this kitchen and seeing all of the crusty bits of wood. It annoys me now, let alone when hormones are all over the place. It would have probably made me cry, I'm not going to lie. Especially knowing we're going to have so many visitors in those first few weeks. I didn't want anybody to think we didn't care about the house because that's not the case at all. I imagined this paint was going to be a lot lighter than it turned out to be. And I was told by most family members that they would have chosen a different colour, and it looks very cold. But like I said, I'm planning to warm up the room with lamps and shelves and plants. It was between duck egg blue and yellow, and I thought yellow might make it look a bit stained. And yellow is my absolute favourite colour, by the way. I'm not hating on it at all, but I'm standing firm in my choice. I think the blue's going to grow on everybody. Next, I made a start on this horrible door. And this door always bugs me because it looks worse than it is. One of the dogs scratched it trying to get into the living room years ago now. So that area always holds on to the tiniest bit of dirt. It needs sanding, so we're going to get that done today. But first I went in with some elbow grease to loosen everything. And my kids are always sticking stickers and sellotape over everything as well, hence the sticky residue over everything. And yes, I could make it a rule that they don't do that, but they're only small for so long. I know I make life harder for myself, but believe it or not, I actually like to see evidence of the fact my kids live here. The stickers on the doors and the handprints. It just reminds me that I'm living one of my dreams, which was to have a family. I could have also told my son no when he came in and asked to help with the sanding, but I think it's so important to encourage and nurture helpfulness. So here he is doing his little part. He got bored very fast, but it's the thought that counts. Gave this wall a good clean with some sugar soap. Again, the wall always looks grubby because this is where Mushroom's bed used to be. I sound like I'm making so many excuses, don't I? Ah well, I'm always trying to make positive change and I'm proud of myself. I think sometimes people expect, or we expect, our own progress to be linear when we set an intention, such as I want to keep my house tidier, I want to be cleaner, I want to declutter, and it doesn't often work out that way. You can't measure your progress in a straight line charting upwards. Little dips and highs and lows, that doesn't mean that you aren't making impactful changes in your life and your home. Feeling like you're not making any progress or you're actually reverting back to the way you were before, I feel like that's all part of the process. And it's what you do in those moments that counts. Anyway, next I gave the paint on the door a freshen up. I did paint the whole door, but I'm not going to bore you with that entire process. I'm trying to improve my editing skills in 2026, in terms of realising you don't have to leave in every single bit of footage to tell a story. Although, like I said earlier on, when I was talking about cleaning the walls, leave something out and people fill in the gaps. It happened on a short not long ago too. I was decluttering clothes to donate, and because I cleared the laundry baskets and put them into bin bags, and I didn't film the process of washing the clothes, or didn't acknowledge in the video that I was going to wash them, that automatically meant in a lot of people's eyes that I wasn't going to. But do you know what? I've decided this year that's not my problem, and it's not the problem of the people who actually enjoy watching this channel. Anyway, I said a few videos ago, all the cupboards are chipping and I'm not replacing them because we're saving for a mortgage. So I'm just going to paint them and make it slightly less visible. Emphasis on slightly. We're not going for perfect, we're just going for better. I suppose I could have used some of that filler I used on the skirting boards, but I don't trust myself to not make it look worse. And then here's some footage of Charlie and my stepdad getting their bits done. Thank goodness for tall people, because even on ladders I wouldn't be able to reach this far up. And we didn't use masking tape. Oh, what's wrong with us? At 35 weeks pregnant, I decided it was finally time to brave cleaning these floors. Like I said, the regular cleans just haven't been cutting it. Even the deep cleans, with bleach and all. Every time we mop, it looks like we just haven't done anything to it. And I think it's because the floors have got a lot of ridges, it's been a muddy winter, and obviously there are loads of paint splashes everywhere from all of the redecorating. So first I went in with some paint remover and a scrubbing brush, and even that didn't manage to get all of it, so I had to kind of try and prise it off. And then this little patch of blue splodges is from Ike sitting here painting ages ago. And I thought at the time, this will just wipe straight off because it's kids' paint. It did not. I find blue really stains a lot more than other colours. This is one of those situations where things have just built up gradually over time, even with mopping regularly. And then one day you're like, this looks horrible. I swear this floor used to be a different colour. And honestly, I think it started when I stopped using the scrubbing brush with the squeegee. I did notice how well it worked on the floors, and I've raved about them so much on this channel in the past. But then part of me thought, surely it can't make that much of a difference. Well, apparently it does. So the scrubbing brush is back. So I'm just scrubbing everywhere with bleach and water in sections, making sure I'm being really thorough and not missing anything. Don't worry, this is only step 1. This is going to be a real deep clean. And I actually decided against removing any more of the paint until I'd properly cleaned the floor, just because it makes the paint patches more visible. Anyway, remember I said that my baby was lying horizontally and I needed a growth scan to check their size and how they're lying at 36 weeks? I can't remember if I actually did tell you that, but yeah, by 36 weeks they wanted to check their position again. And I'd basically been told if they hadn't moved, I was going to have to stay in hospital until I had them, just because it's safer that way if my waters break. Well, guess who didn't get to go to the appointment because of the snowstorm? So now I'm waiting for another appointment to be sent out. Don't know whether we'll actually get one before baby arrives because they're basically trying to fit in a whole day's worth of scans into an already packed schedule. But it is what it is. Rudy, my eldest, had his first ever snow day off school, and he's 9 now. That's how long we've waited for some proper snow where we live, and he was so excited. Our appointment was meant to be at 8 a.m, and the hospital's about an hour away as it is, so me and Charlie had gotten up at 5 a.m. to get ready and defrost the car. Originally my mum was meant to have the boys overnight, but she had a sickness bug. Then before the snow even started, I'd called my dad last minute and I was like, would you by any chance be able to pop over to ours and take Rudy to school and look after Ike while we go for this appointment? At this point, I didn't actually think it was going to snow that much because we're always let down by the weather forecasts. And then about an hour later, snow. And then more snow. And then it did not stop. And within hours, everywhere was covered. So when I woke up, I was really panicked and I was calling my dad like, you cannot drive in this. My mum tried to drive down and ended up having to abandon her car. And she had to walk the rest of the way home. And in the end, we were like, we're just going to have to cancel this appointment. There were cars left stranded everywhere, trees had blown into the middle of the road. It really was chaos for our usually very boring little town. But yeah, we'd gotten a text from Rudy's school that it was closed, and it was forecast to rain a few hours later, so we got the boys up while it was still dark, and we all went out for a walk and built a snowman, and it was lovely. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know a few days before that I was watching all of the videos of the snow in Scotland and having a moan because we hadn't gotten any. So be careful what you wish for, I say. Using this scrubbing brush is actually so satisfying, and it used to be part of my mopping routine, but obviously since I've become pregnant I've had to cut down to the bare minimum, just because I'm so worn out. But I've got a burst of energy and determination in these last few weeks. I need this house to be spotless. The nesting is truly in full swing. And I would say this is a sign that baby's going to be here soon, but my body loves to go overdue. We'll see though, never know. I know I said at the start of this video that I was 35 weeks, but it's taken me so long to do this voiceover, I'm actually 36 weeks now, and I've still not got my bedroom sorted, or even fully packed my hospital bag. The most I've gotten done is washing the baby clothes. And I do know one thing, I'm having this baby sometime in the 39th week, because this will be my third C-section. So I've got about 3 weeks to get my act together. And yeah, I really want to give my bedroom a deep clean and wash the carpets. I've got some brand new bed sheets, and they kind of match with the sheets I've got for babies next to me crib, which also hasn't been assembled yet. I just want the room to be cosy, and it's not looking so cosy right now. My time management, as always, has been atrocious. But in my defence, I've been stuck in bed pretty much the first half of my pregnancy, and now I'm just trying to catch up on the days I feel okay. What would really help is if Charlie could have these last 3 weeks off of work. Not going to happen, but that would make life a lot easier. First water pour. Now, next round of cleaning, boiling water and the spin mop. And you can already see a difference in the floor. Honestly, the camera doesn't do justice as to how bad it was before. In person, it was really grubby. And I was honestly so overwhelmed with it, just because of how small the paint splashes were, and there was some plasticine as well that needed to be removed by hand, and it looked exactly like mud. My mum came round and did a little clean when me and Charlie went away for my birthday, and I don't think she believed me before when I told her I was mopping often. Because would you believe it, my mum likes things to be clean, and she doesn't always understand why I struggle so much with the home. And then she tried to mop it herself, and I felt very vindicated. But yeah, lots of people, when they watch my videos and they see I struggle with organisation and messiness, they assume it's because I was raised that way, and they try and give me parenting advice, and they say, "Ugh, if you're messy, you're teaching your kids to be." But I lived with my mum and stepdad, and they have always kept a pristine house. And that did not rub off on me. Honestly, I think a huge part of it is simply to do with how our brains are wired, and I talk about that so much on this channel. I never lived with my dad or my auntie or my granddad. Well, I did live with my dad when I was very young, when he and my mum were still together, but not enough to remember his habits around the home. But I am so similar to them in their struggles with keeping a clean and tidy home, and there are videos of me cleaning for them on this channel. Trying to instill good habits in your kids to set them up for an easier adult life is so important, of course. And again, I talk about that a lot on this channel too, and we put a lot of things in place in order to try and do that. But my point is, we can't make assumptions about people, or about how they were raised, or about how they try to raise their kids. It's a lot more nuanced than people think. Anyway, I've been noticing the kind of baseboards, and this area near the washing machine has become a bit grimy, and the mop hasn't been able to reach it, so I was like, let's give this a scrub with some Skip the Soak, not soap. And then it was time to remove the remainder of the paint splashes. And now the floor was clearer and there was more contrast. They were more apparent, and it was a much easier process. I'm honestly impressed I managed to achieve this at 36 weeks pregnant, but rolling over in bed's like running a marathon for me at the minute. But it needed to be done. My brain was insistent. I said earlier, I really hope I get to keep this nesting instinct, even just 10% of it, please. Anyway, look how much cleaner it looks. I'm so happy with how it turned out. Here's some footage of Charlie cleaning the windows. I must have forgot to put that in. And now it's time to show you the final before and afters. If you've made it this far into the video, as always, hello bestie. I'm going to assume we're firm friends now, virtual ones anyway. Please let me know what you think, even if you don't like it. I promise I won't be offended. Actually, I take that back, don't. I'm in my 3rd trimester, I'll cry. I cry when I can't finish a packet of crisps because I feel sorry for the crisps that get left behind. At this point, you're probably thinking, you can't finish a packet of crisps? No, I've got no room left. Anyway, I think it looks so much better. It's brightened up the space, it's made it look bigger, more light, more airy. Partly due to the fact that we removed half of the clutter in here as well, but still. Now, wish me luck on being this successful sorting out the main bedroom. I'm going to get right to that once I've posted this video. Going to get everything packed and organised as well, and hopefully put all of that together into what will probably be my final video before baby arrives. I'm so excited! If you're wondering why there was so much stuff stuck on the tumble dryer, it's because every surface is a magnet for clutter in this house, but I'm going to do my utmost to change that in 2026. I say that every year, don't I? Let's be honest. But all we can do is keep on trying to improve, and I refuse to give up on the pursuit of a less chaotic life. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this new year is brilliant to you. I can't wait to get back out in the garden and replace those light bulbs. They're meant to be waterproof. Next thing I'm going to do in this kitchen is put a shelf above the tumble dryer. And then I'm going to put the laundry stuff on there, a plant, a lamp, maybe some paintings on the wall, and it should look really cosy. Anyway, I've rambled on enough, so I'll see you in the next video. Maybe before I have the baby, maybe not.